everyone. This is the 43rd lesson of English is Easy. How are you today? Fine? I'm fine too. How do you feel today, Giovanni?
I feel fine. And you, Maria Carla?
I feel really well today, thank you.
What's going to happen in our film today?
Incontreremo una nuova persona nel film di oggi. Her name is Judith Allison. She's a teacher, and she's visiting Kate. You never met Judith Anderson. Listen, you never met Judith Anderson, but you've met Don Richards, haven't you? Listen, you never met Judith. Repeat.
You never met Judith.
But you met Don Richards. Repeat.
But you met Don Richards.
Very good. Have you ever met Judith Allison?
No, I haven't. Have you ever met Judith Allison?
No, I haven't. Have you ever met Judith Allison? Very good. Have you ever met Don Richards? Have you ever met Don Richards, Giovanni?
Yes, I have.
Would you ask me if I've ever met Don Richards?
Have you ever met Don Richards?
Again?
Have you ever met Don Richards?
Have I ever met Don Richards? After 42 lessons, of course I have. I know Don Richards very well. Have you ever met Cassius Clay, Giovanni?
No, I haven't.
Do you know who Cassius Clay is, Maria Carla?
Yes, he is a boxer, isn't he?
He's a boxer, isn't he? Cassius Clay is a boxer, isn't he? Repeat, please. Cassius Clay is a boxer, isn't he? Good. Would you like to be a boxer? Do you enjoy fighting, Maria Carla?
No, I don't enjoy.
Would you like to be a boxer?
No.
Nel film di oggi, la bambina Nancy parla molto con questa nuova persona Judith su quello che vorrei fare da grande. Attrice, insegnante, infermiera e tante altre cose. Let's look at our film, and later we can talk about what we want to be. All right? May we see our film, please?
Hello. How are you today? Oh, I'm fine too, thank you. A woman is visiting the Phillips house today. Her name is Judith Allison. She's an old friend of Kate Phillips. Miss Allison is a school teacher. She worked with many children, but she never met one like Nancy, Kate's niece. We'll go to the Phillips house soon, and you'll see what I mean. Before we go there, let's learn the meaning of some words you'll hear. Now, repeat. Meet. Meeting. Met. So do I. A ballet dancer. A musician. An artist. An actress. A scientist. Take care of. Fine. Now let's find out quickly what these words mean. Look. These two people are meeting on the street. They're saying hello. Repeat. Can you meet me later? Good. Notice that meet and meeting are verbs. We say, for example, I meet him every day, and we're meeting now. Meeting is also a noun. These people are having a meeting. Listen and repeat. Let's have a meeting. Come to the meeting. Where is the meeting? That's fine. The past of the verb meet is met. Listen, I met Miss Lee this morning. These two men met on the street. Repeat. They met on the street. All right? The expression, so do I, is very common in English. We use it all the time. Now, listen to some examples. And here's Miss Nancy Lee to help us. Hi, Nancy.
Hello, Don.
Listen. I like George Phillips.
So do I.
I like coffee.
So do I.
I enjoy fishing.
So do I.
Listen to the first example again. I like George Phillips.
So do I.
What does Miss Lee mean? She could say, I like him also. Listen again to the second example. I like coffee.
So do I.
Miss Lee could say, I like coffee also. And now the third example. I enjoy fishing.
So do I.
Miss Lee could say, I enjoy fishing also. Now repeat. So do I. Let's practice that. Please listen to Miss Lee's sentences and repeat my sentences.
I enjoy barbecues.
So do I.
I enjoy buying gifts.
So do I.
I like to paint.
So do I.
I like to go shopping.
So do I. That's fine. Now let's look at some pictures. Ask me the question, what's he? If there's a man in the picture, ask, what's she for a woman? And repeat my answer. Ready? What's she? She's a ballet dancer. What's she? She's a musician. What's he? He's a musician too. What's she? She's an artist. What's he? He's an artist too. What's she? She's an actress. Now listen carefully. We use a different word for a man here. What's he? He's an actor. What's she? She's a scientist. What's he? He's a scientist. What's she? She's a nurse. Nurses are usually women. What do nurses do? They take care of people who are sick. Now repeat. They take care of people. They wash them, give them food, and give them medicine. And now, let's go to the Phillips home and listen to the conversation.
How long will you be here in town, Judith?
Well, let me think. Tomorrow is the last teacher's meeting. I have to teach a class the day after tomorrow. I have to leave tomorrow night.
I'm so glad your teacher's meeting was here this year. I wish you could stay here longer.
So do I. When was the last time we met?
Judith, I think it was 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago. When I last saw you, George was in high school.
You're right. And now he's finishing college.
Do you have a picture of George?
Yes.
Well, he's a very handsome young man. Children grow up quickly, don't they?
Yes, time passes very quickly. Oh, hi, Nancy.
Hello, Aunt Kate.
What do you have there?
Tomatoes? I got them from the garden.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I don't have any tomatoes in the house. I used my last tomato at lunch today. Judith, this is Nancy, my niece. Nancy, this is Miss Allison.
Hello, Nancy.
How do you do, Miss Allison?
That's a very pretty dress you're wearing.
Thank you. My Aunt Kate made it for me. Are you going to live here, Miss Allison?
No, I'm just visiting for a few days.
Miss Allison and I have been friends for many years. We were in the first grade together in school.
In the first grade? Why, you've been friends for about 50 years.
Oh, not that long, dear. Well, I have to go into the kitchen for a minute, Nancy. Would you like to stay and talk to Miss Allison?
I'd be glad to, Aunt Kate.
What would you like to drink, Judith? Coffee or tea?
I'd rather have coffee, thank you. Do you go to school, Nancy?
Yes, I'm in the third grade. In 5 more years, I'll be in high school.
Do you like school?
Oh, yes. After I finish high school, I'm going to college.
I see. And what would you like to do after you finish college?
What do you mean?
Well, all children think about a job they'd like to have when they're older. When I was in the third grade, I wanted to be a school teacher. What would you like to be?
Oh, I'd like to be a ballet dancer.
Well, that's very nice. But that isn't easy, you know, Nancy. You have to practice for many years.
Well, maybe I'd rather be a musician. I enjoy playing the piano. Do you like to play the piano, Miss Allison?
I don't know how to play the piano.
I don't know how to play the piano either, but I play it. Maybe I'd like to be a nurse.
But you just said you'd like to be a musician.
No, I think I'd rather be a nurse.
I can see you've thought about many jobs.
Oh, yes, I think about them all the time. I'd like to be a secretary, too, and an artist, and a scientist. Oh, and someday I'd like to be an actress, and I'd like to have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls.
But, Nancy, you can't take care of 6 children. You'll be too busy. If you're an artist, and a secretary, and an
Nurses
actress...
take care of children, don't they?
Yes.
Well, then, I'm going to be a nurse, so I'll take care of my children.
Would you like this glass of milk, Nancy?
Yes, thank you.
What would you like in your coffee, Judith? Cream? Sugar?
1 teaspoon of sugar, no cream, thank you.
Judith, you look as young as you did 5 years ago. I think you must enjoy teaching very much.
Do you like your work?
Yes, very much. I'm very busy all of the time, but I enjoy working with children.
I remember when we were little girls, you always said you'd be a teacher.
You know something, Aunt Kate?
What is it, Nancy?
I think I'd like to be a school teacher. Then I won't have to send my children to school. I can teach them everything at home.
Judith.
Thank you.
Well, Nancy wants to...
Hello again. Nancy would like to be many things, wouldn't she?
Yes, she would.
What would you like to be? Repeat.
What would you like to be?
What would you like to be, Maria Carla?
I'd like to be a doctor.
Why would you like to be a doctor?
I enjoy taking care of people. What would you like to be?
I'd like to be a veterinarian. I like to take care of animals. I like dogs, cats, horses, all animals.
Listen and repeat. She'd like to be a doctor. Repeat.
She'd like to be a doctor.
He'd like to be a veterinarian. Listen. He'd like to be a veterinarian. Repeat.
He'd like to be a veterinarian.
We can say vet invece di veterinarian. Listen. He'd like to be a vet. Repeat, please.
He'd like to be a vet.
Good. What would Giovanni like to be, Maria Carla?
He'd like to be a vet.
Good. When you were a little girl, Maria Carla, what did you want to be?
When I was a little girl...
Yes.
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a lot of things, just like Nancy. A teacher, an artist, a nurse, and yes, I also wanted to be a clown.
Oh, she wanted to be a clown. And what about Giovanni?
What would you like to be when you were a little boy?
Oh, just a moment. Maria Carla, listen. Maria Carla ha detto, what would you like to be when you were a little boy? No, c'è uno sbaglio. Maria Carla, se stai parlando del passato, che devi dire?
What did you want to be when you were a little boy?
Let's repeat that. What did you want to be when you were a little boy? Repeat.
What did you want to be when you were a little boy?
Okay.
Well, I never wanted to be a clown. I did want to be an astronaut. Yes, I always said when I was a little boy that I'd like to be an astronaut.
Ah, very interesting. What did he always say when he was a little boy? He always said that he'd like to be an astronaut. Very good. What would you like to be when you grow up? Oppure, ripetiamo questo. Listen. What would you like to be when you grow up? Repeat.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
Oppure, se siete già grande, what did you want to be when you were little? Repeat.
What did you want to be when you were little?
Now, let's listen to a conversation from our film. The conversation is at the beginning of the film between Kate and Judith Allison. First, let's look at the conversation in the film. May we see that, please?
Tomorrow. I have to leave tomorrow night.
I'm so glad your teachers' meeting was here this year. I wish you could stay here longer.
So do I. When was the last time we met?
Judith, I think it was 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago. When I last saw you, George was in...
Okay. Did you understand that conversation? I'll say it to you again. Let's listen. Kate and Judith. Kate, I wish you could stay here longer. Judith, so do I. When was the last time we met? Kate, I think it was 5 years ago. Judith, I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago. All right, now let's listen and repeat after me. I wish you could stay here longer. Repeat.
I wish you could stay here longer.
So do I. When was the last time we met?
So do I. When was the last time we met?
I think it was 5 years ago.
I think it was 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago.
Very good. Let's practice that conversation. First with Maria Carla and Giovanni. Ready?
Yes. I wish you could stay here longer.
So do I. When was the last time we met?
I think it was 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago.
Very good. Now let's try it with Giovanni and with you. All right? Begin, Giovanni.
I wish you could stay here longer. I think it was 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago. Very good. Now, would you like to try it with Maria Carla? Okay, let's begin. I wish you could stay here longer.
So do I. When was the last time we met?
I think it was 5 years ago.
I'm sure it was more longer than 5 years ago.
That's interesting. I think it was more longer than 5 years ago. Oh, vergogna, Maria Carla, abbiamo avuto una lezione su questo. More interesting, more comfortable, more expensive, perché interesting, comfortable, expensive sono parole lunghe, ma invece longer, shorter, bigger, taller, perché sono aggettivi piccoli, corti. Allora, I'm sure it was more than 5 years ago. All right? Now, let's practice the expression, so do I. Listen. I like music.
So do I.
So do I. I like cornbread.
So do I. Do you like apples, Maria Carla?
Yes, I do.
So do I.
I enjoy a good film. Good. Listen. So do I is the same as me too. Listen. So do I vale tanto quanto me too. È la stessa cosa. Listen. I have a sister.
Me too.
Me too. I like music.
Me too.
Me too. E indovina che cosa vedremo dopo il resto della lezione di Don Richards? Another lesson of Me Too. I'll see you, children, after Don Richards' lesson with Me Too.
Well, Nancy wants to be many things when she grows up, doesn't she? Oh, excuse me. Do you know what grow up means? Look. This is a picture of me when I was a boy. This is a picture of me now. I've grown up. I'm not a boy now. I'm a man. This is Miss Lee when she was a child. Miss Lee has grown up. Now she's a woman. She was a child some years ago. Let's repeat the sentences we heard. Children grow up quickly. Nancy wants to do many things when she grows up. Good. Now listen. Miss Lee will say a sentence beginning, she wants to be. I'll say the same sentence with, she'd like to be, and repeat my sentence.
She wants to be an actress.
She'd like to be an actress.
She wants to be an artist.
She'd like to be an artist.
She wants to be a musician.
She'd like to be a musician.
She wants to be a teacher.
She'd like to be a teacher.
She wants to be a nurse.
She'd like to be a nurse.
She wants to take care of people.
She'd like to take care of people. That's fine. Let's learn to ask the question now. Repeat. What would you like to be? Now, I'll ask you the question. I'll show you a picture. You say, I'd like to be an artist. Ready? What would you like to be? Repeat. I'd like to be an artist. That's very good.
Hello, girls and boys. Eccoci per un altro lezioncino sul libro per bambini Me Too. Oggi ho pensato di farvi conoscere i diversi modi in cui da Me Too si può imparare una determinata cosa. Prendiamo le parole in inglese per descrivere una persona. Alto, basso, magro, grasso. Vediamo adesso il libro. Let's look at this page of Me Too. Guardiamo queste pagine di Me Too. This is Mr. Lin. This is Mr. Pratt. This is Mr. Court. This is Mr. Tall. Now listen, children. Mr. Lynn is very thin. Mr. Pratt is very fat. Mr. Court is very short. Mr. Hall is very tall. Mr. Lynn is very thin. Mr. Pratt is very fat. Mr. Court is very short. Mr. Hall is very tall. Thin, fat, short, tall. Adesso guardiamo questo di nuovo e sentiamo la cassetta che c'ha un canzoncino sulla stessa cosa. Ecco, vediamo la canzoncino.
Song. Mr. Lynn is very thin.
Mr. Lynn is very thin, Mr. Pratt is very fat, Mr. Court is very short, Mr. Hall is very tall. Mr. Lynn is very thin, Mr. Pratt is very fat, Mr. Court is very short, Mr. Hall is very tall.
Allora, guardando il libro e sentendo la registrazione, abbiamo la possibilità di fare sia in classe a scuola o anche da sole a casa un po' di inglese, con la pronuncia giusta e capendo tutto senza una traduzione. Allora, adesso sulla pagina accanto c'è un'altra cosa, sulle stesse parole tall e thin, è un altro elemento. Guardate, this man is tall. This man is very tall. This man is thin. This man is very thin. Allora noi sappiamo anche come dire very tall e very thin. Allora Mr. Lynn is very thin. Mr. Pratt is very fat. Mr. Court is very short. Mr. Hall is very tall. Poi, in ogni lezione, sono riprese anche elementi già insegnati nelle altre pagine. Vi ricordate il nostro primo lezione? My family. And this is Mum. And this is Dad. Vi ricordate Jack Anderson? This is Mum and this is Dad. Bene, allora, dopo questa parte sul tall e thin, segue un mini dialogo in cui sentiamo di nuovo queste parole, fat and thin. Ascoltiamo adesso questo mini dialogo e vediamo se si riesce a capirlo.
Is Anne's mum fat? Yes, she's very fat. My mum is thin. My dad is thin.
Bene, avete sentito questo? Il bello di questo corredo di Me Too è che per un insegnante italiano offre sempre la possibilità di far ascoltare l'intonazione giusta e l'accento giusto. Anche in casa, usando questo, si può arrivare allo stesso scopo. Vogliamo sentire un'altra volta la stessa mini dialogo.
Is Anne's mum fat? Yes, she's very fat. My mum is thin. My dad is thin.
Vorrei anche continuare a mostrarvi questo, ma non penso che ci sia tempo oggi. La facciamo questo fumetto la prossima volta. E spero di vedervi tutti per un'altra lezione di Me Too. Goodbye, everyone.
Song. Mr. Lynn is very thin.
Mr. Lynn is very thin, Mr. Pratt is very fat, Mr. Court is very short, Mr. Hall is very tall. Mr. Lynn is very thin, Mr. Pratt is very fat, Mr. Court is very short, Mr. Hall is very tall.